everyone! I'm so sorry that I didn't get to go live tonight. I was cleaning my sewing room in hopes of finding some of the swim lining, which I did find. It was in a pile of fabric behind me, but I needed them to finish tonight's live. And I'm doing the Sew a Little Seam Mairin. I'm just doing the bottoms of the kids' swimsuit, and so I am using the hot pink, I think that's what it's called, from the shop, the sugar cookie swim lining, and then the 1/4 inch swim elastic. So I am going to rotate y'all towards my sewing machine and let's get started. Alright, so I'm going to start by pinning my front and my back right sides together along that side seam. And I'm also going to do, I'm going to pin right along this crotch right here. So now I'm going to clip together the lining. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. And like I said previously, this is the little kids boy short option, and I'm also opting to do a leg ruffle on this one. So clipping the side seams, and then going ahead to clip your crotch. Alright, so the next step will be to serge them. So this is my serger setup. I'm using a white thread, and so I'm going to go ahead and serge all these clipped areas. So I'm serging the side seams and the crotch seams on both the lining and then the main. And one little trick is I try to scooch my fabric just to under my needles and then put my needles down to secure the fabric so it doesn't scooch away, especially with the slippery things like swim and swim lining. Alright, so my swim lining is done, and I am going to go ahead and do the swim main. Just wanted to confirm that they were both right sides together. So again, I try and slip my fabric under, needles down, and then I'll go ahead and sew. So this crotch part is just a touch finicky just because swim is so slippery. So this is really where that needles down trick will help you. I've had to seam rip one too many times because it doesn't line up. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut my pieces apart. Alright, so the next step will be to sew a gather stitch on my ruffle piece. So I'm going to up my stitch length all the way up. Mine's highest is 5. And then I'm going to go ahead and stitch pretty close to this curved edge. guest appearance by my cat. She loves to help. So we got one done, and I'm just going to go ahead and do the exact same thing to the other. So now we are going to pull these, maybe, until they gather. So you can see that it's starting to gather already. I'm just going to gather slightly. I don't know exactly how much I'll need to gather. So I'm going to grab my swim fronts and mark the notches for where the ruffles will be placed. Alright, so now that I have my ruffle points marked, I'm going to flip my swimsuit, the mane, to right sides out. And I'm going to clip this basted edge all the way around. So from one mark to the next. And this will go right sides together. So I'm going to clip one end at one mark and then bring the other end around to the other mark. And this will give me a good gauge on how much I need to gather. So now I'm just going to pull those basting stitches, those gather stitches. And as you can see, it's already starting to ruffle my leg flounce. So I'm going to pull just a little bit more. You'll want to try to get the ruffles as even as you can. So here you can see that it lines up pretty much exact with the main swim piece. So I'm going to go ahead and clip that in place. Like so, and I'm going to go ahead and do that exact same thing on the other side here. So clipping right sides together. And then we're going to baste these. So we're going to just run another, once we get these both gathered, run another stitch so that they act as one. So that when it comes to sewing in the elastic, that it's not like 3 moving pieces, it'll just be 2, which was super helpful. Alright, so that's pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and clip it. Alright, so now I'm just going to go ahead and do a basting stitch, which is another just long stitch to hold the 2 things together. So now that I have the flounces attached, I'm going to go ahead and pin my swim lining around the top and at the crotch into my mane. So I always put mine wrong sides together so that there's a smooth edge on the inside. Some minimal edges, which I think is especially great for kiddos who don't seem to bother quite a few of them that I know. So I just pin at the side seams. And I'm also going to go ahead and pin at center front and center back. So I line those side seams up, put a clip where the one fold is. Maybe. We'll start up here. Alright. It's the thing with swim and swim lining. It can be a little bit slippery. So I'm just going to approximate center back. Looks pretty good. And then I'm going to put one clip right where these crotch seams line up on each side. Like so. So then the next thing that we'll do is attach our elastic. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and attach our swim elastic. So what you're going to want to do is clip to the inside, and we're going to sew this all the way around. Alright, so just making sure that everything lines up nicely. And you are going to need to stretch your swim elastic slightly. I'm just taking my time, making sure that my elastic, my swim main, and my swim lining all line up nicely. Perfect. So then you're going to want to fold your swim elastic so that it's hidden on the inside. So I'm going to do that quickly. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and sew that other piece of swim elastic on. I'm glad that I stopped. I'm running out of white, so I'm going to change that quickly and I'll be right back. Alright, so now I have what somewhat resembles some little shorts. So I'm going to go ahead and top stitch. I don't have any pink, but I love how pink and black look. So I'm just going to run them on my cover stitch quickly and I'll be right back to finish up the waistband. Alright, so now that I have that elastic top stitched down, I'm going to go ahead and finish the waistband. So I have one piece of swim that I'm going to sew right sides together here. Perfect. So now I'm going to fold it so that this seam is on the inside and clip, and then clip directly across from that. So that'll be our center front. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and clip it to my swim shorts. So we're going to clip to the outside here. So we're going to, when we did the center front and center back earlier, we're going to match those clips. And clip. Like so. So now we're going to sew around, but this pattern calls for some elastic in the top to help the knot fall down. So you're going to leave about an inch space open. So I'm going to go ahead and do that quickly. So I always leave my spacing along the back. So you're just going to want to apply light pressure to your band as you go. And I'm just making sure that everything lines up nicely because swim is so slippery. So as you can see, I left that little opening there. So I'm going to take a paper clip and thread my piece of elastic through. So I believe the pattern calls for 3 or for 1/4 inch all the way. I prefer to use 3/8 in the waistband. It works really well for me. I also am super lazy and don't measure this. So with this, you're just going to want to thread it, but not scrunch it. So it's more there to provide support so that your swim doesn't stretch out over time. So I'm just threading this through. So it should look like there's not even elastic in there. It shouldn't be bunchy or anything like that. Oops. As you can see, so we already have elastic here and you can't hardly tell. Alright, so we're back at the opening. So now I'm going to cut my elastic, making sure that I leave plenty of space because we're going to need to stitch these two pieces together. So you overlap them like such, and then I'm going to quickly stitch those together. So as you can see, I have those two pieces of elastic stitched together. So now I am going to snug them back inside here. So they just kind of disappear. And then we're just going to stitch this little opening here shut. And then that's the end of our swim shorts. Of course, being sure to leave plenty at the end for a tie-off. Which is what I'm doing right now. Alright, so here are our finished kids swim shorts. And again, this was the Sew a Little Seam Mairin kids, and the options were boy short. These had no diaper ease, mid-rise with a cute little leg ruffle. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next week.